Hello everyone, my name of course is Resonant and welcome back to another video. Now in this video we're going to be talking back about Holdfast Nations at War. Once again, this is a very Napoleonic Wars style game set, of course, like I was saying, in and around the 1800s when the Napoleonic Wars was going on. Now, they've got a lot of information out already. We've seen some gameplay in the trailer that they brought out. They haven't actually brought out another trailer other than that one, but there is a lot of information that they have actually showed us and that we will be able to get our hands on, and some more information has just been released. This is a new development blog that has been put out by the developers, as you might expect. And this is about the class systems and the troops you'll be able to see in the game. Now this is a very interesting one, since we'll definitely be able to see some more new things that we'll be able to get our hands on and get so excited. So let's get straight into the video. Now the classes are sectioned into several military branches. The two main ones, or I don't know if these are the only ones, but these are the two main ones that they state on the dev blog, is the Army and the Navy. Now with the Army, of course, as you might expect, there'll be classes such as an officer in there, there'll be riflemen, there'll be some infantry and that kind of stuff that you'll be able to see. Maybe there's going to be cavalry in there at some point, we're not quite sure yet, but they'll definitely be there in the game. There will also be cannons that you will be able to use as support, and it has been said that these are going to be a major role, especially in the open field battles, as you might expect. Now, of course, you have the Navy alongside the Army, because as we know, this is a game fighting on multiple fronts. And in the Navy, you'll have classes such as the Captain, you'll have a sailor that will be there on board the ship, maybe probably keeping it sustained, firing the cannons, sorting everything out, the Captain, sailing the ship and giving out orders and things like that. But the Navy is not just, they want to state that the Navy is not just used for battling other ships. Of course, you need to be able to take control of the water and the oceans, and for that you need a solid Navy. But it is also going to be used very much so as a decisive role in assault on coastal emplacements, such as we heard before on coastal sieges. You'll be using it for knocking down the walls on coastal forts that will be in the game as well. So you're going to have your ships way out at sea that can be fine, battering down the walls, where your infantry on land are kind of get through those breaches and capture the forts that will be near the coast. It's a very nice idea, combining naval and armed warfare on land. And of course, there will be a command sort of class that you'll be able to use. Now the command branch is more issuing orders, calling in reinforcements, and I suspect these orders are going to be, for example, attacking, defending certain points, taking out formations, asking more reinforcements to come in, and that sort of stuff that we might expect from the sort of command role. Now there will also be rank and file, which as I said, will be more infantry, line infantry, and support classes with artillery. We've already seen there's going to be some nice cannons in there, being able to fire on large clumps of infantry. There's also mortars that we have seen in some screenshots. These mortars are going to be very useful for firing big globs of enemies, getting a lot of kills with those high explosive shells and shrapnel going everywhere. Also getting into some entrenched placements as well. Mortars are going to be very good for that. Something else that we have actually seen is, of course, the cannons on the ships. Will we have mortars on ships? I'm not quite sure whether that's going to be a thing, but definitely there will be cannons on ships that you'll be able to use, not just to attack the naval vessels, but of course land units as well. Now there are traits in the game. Now these traits will give each unit a specific reason it is on the battlefield. It's not just going to be there for the looks. It's going to have some advantages for playing this type of unit. For example, this trait could be the ability to issue orders, as we've seen from the command class, fire cannons, which will probably be some sort of artillery loader and firer class, and of course heal other players, which we've already seen some surgeons or doctors in some screenshots, and of course the trailers of the gameplay. Of course, we have all these talks of abilities, traits, and the different classes, but hopefully on the blog they have actually given us an example of one type in particular. Now, like I said, there's going to be the captains, there's going to be the soldiers, riflemen, cannoneers, sailors, doctors, all that sort of classes, but they have given us the captain to work on as an example. Now this is going to be the infantry officer. Of course we will have captains on ships as well, but this is specifically focusing on the infantry officer. There will be screenshots of the French and British infantry officer on the screen now. You'll be able to see what they are like, and I'm going to go through what we've been told about their advantages, their disadvantages, and how you're going to be able to use them in battle and interact with other troops. Now of course this will be a command role, like I said before. You'll be able to lead your men in with your infantry officer class, and of course the command role will give you the options to be charging in, to be attacking, show formations, call in reinforcements and things like that. The ability this troop or this certain class has is called Army Authority. This is the officer in command, and it gives you basically the ability to issue orders. Now, some examples of these orders: the first one is reinforce. You can call support from your fellow men. It will relay a message to all the players on your team to reinforce position where you are located. An objective will also be shown on the minimap along with an icon in the 3D world space marking the infantry officer's location for a small time. Now, this is a very cool concept if you're maybe running low on men at some point. If you're trying to hold a location where the big battle's raging on somewhere else, but you're trying to hold a choke point and maybe your men are dwindling, you can call in reinforcements from an ally somewhere else on the battlefield. Now, it will show where you are calling this in on the minimap, like it says in these words here said by the developers, but it's going to be very interesting to see how players are going to be able to use this in the tactics of their game. Another order people will be able to use is charge. You'll be able to lead your men in a glorious charge. Now, this will increase the damage dealt by nearby teammates for a short amount of time when they are using melee weapons, and players will also receive a message instructing them when to charge. So, to put this basically in layman's terms, you'll click the charge button, it'll give the order, pop up on screen for your allies, and they will go in charge and they'll get a bit more health in there as well. Now, one thing they have stated on the dev blog is that both these two orders, both the reinforce and the charge orders, will have a long cooldown. Now, this is very interesting because it's really going to add to the tactics of the game, so you're going to have to use them very wisely. You're going to have to maybe wait till the last possible point before you reinforce a point, because you won't be able to use that ability order again for a very long time. Or maybe you're going to have to pick your right moment to charge. But this is just speculation. I suspect that you'll still be able to actually charge in your men at any point you want. You'll be able to go into melee, but you won't get the advantages such as the extra damage dealt by nearby teammates, and there won't be any message telling them to charge, so it's going to be a lot less coordinated. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they do it and the tactics that the players are going to have to implement, when and why they're going to use it. It's more going to be a last resort sort of thing. Now, the traits that this army captain, this infantry officer has, one of them is resilient. This means you have slightly increased HP of the infantry officer, so you're more likely to survive when you go into the melee fights. If you get shot, maybe you'll be able to last a little bit longer than a normal infantry officer, and you'll be able to take a few more hits, which is a very interesting thing since you need your captain, you need your infantry officer on the field. I suspect it won't be a massive difference in HP, so you'll still have to protect your officer, because without an officer, it takes out a massive part of your tactics and being able to issue orders to all your men. Another trait is distinguishable. Stand out from the rank and file, you appear in a different colour on the minimap. This will make it easier for players within your distance to spot your location and follow you into battle. Now, this is a very small advantage, a very small trait that they're adding in, but I think it will help quite a lot on the battlefield, since you need to know where your captain is. If you don't know where your captain is, if you don't know where your infantry officer is, how are you going to follow them into battle? This is going to be a key point for getting your men to follow you in the tactics you want to do, because of course if you issue some orders and your men have no idea where you are or where you want them to go, it's going to be a massive issue. So yes, this may be a very small trait, but once again it will be very useful in the heat of battle. And the final trait you'll be able to use as the infantry officer is sword specialization. Now, it kind of says what it says on the tin here. You excel with using swords. You'll be able to damage more using a sword, and I guess you'll be able to just have an all-round advantage with using sword weaponry. I suspect it's going to be very similar to a game such as Mount & Blade, where a sword does not do as much damage as a bayonet. But of course, using the officer class, you will want to probably use a sword, since you'll gain some advantage, maybe some speed advantages, as well as the damage advantage there. Now, the blog goes into the type of weaponry and equipment that you'll be using as an infantry officer. These include an officer's sword. Obviously, you'll be able to use this as your main melee weapon of an officer. This is a very trademark thing that an officer has. When you charge in with your sword held high, all the rank and file will have their bayonets, but the officer will be distinguishable with his sword. You'll also have a pistol. This is something that a lot of officers use, since of course they don't want to be lugging around a rifle all the time, since they fight in very different ways to the main rank and file do. But I suspect this will do a lot less damage, and of course it does say it will do a shorter range, so you won't be able to fire as far as maybe some of the muskets. But of course it has some advantages to it will be reloaded more quickly. So it kind of taking out compensation where you'll be able to fire a lot shorter range, which is a bit of a problem, but of course you can fire a lot quicker, so it's going to be useful in certain situations depending on where you are. But of course, if you're an officer, you'll be alongside rank and file troops with muskets or riflemen as well, so they can kind of make up for your downfalls. You will also have a spyglass. This is very prominent for an officer. You need to be able to spot the enemy from afar and basically issue out the orders. You can't make a plan of action if you don't know where the enemy are. So spyglass is what you'll be using a lot of the time. Not necessarily while you're in the heat of battle, but definitely before and throughout the battle when you're not physically fighting. And this is a very strange one that I wasn't quite expecting. They're adding in a lantern as equipment for the officer class. Now, the reason they're adding this in is to light your way through the map during nighttime, which on its own is very interesting. We have actually seen some screenshots from nighttime battles. This will be very interesting. How dark will it actually be? Will you actually need lanterns to find out where you are? But it does say on the dev block, watch out though, you can easily make your location known to the enemy. This is very interesting because it's kind of pointing at the fact that the lantern is going to be a very tactical thing. Even though you might not think it is, how important is it going to be? Because I don't think they'd add it in if it wasn't really necessary. Maybe it's going to be extremely pitch black, and in the nighttime battle, you're going to need these lanterns to see where you and your troops are going. And I think it's going to be good for seeing allies as well on the battlefield and making tactics. But of course, it will be able to use the same as the enemies. They'll be able to see where you are from a lot longer distance. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we use these and how they're going to be used throughout the game. I'm still not completely sure the main point of these lanterns and basically how they're going to affect the game in a big way. But I guess we'll just have to find out, see if we have any more information on them at some point. Now you may be thinking, oh, it's really great that they're adding in these traits and abilities in. But some of you may be thinking, that kind of ruins the game, having some unrealistic things with more HP and things like that. They never really had them. Now, the developers have come to your rescue. Now, they are saying they will have server customization, which is a godsend from the developers because it just adds to the options, and of course a game with more options is a more popular game in my opinion. Some people may want these abilities, these traits, some people may want a more realistic sense in the game, and this server optimization or customization makes you able to enable or disable traits and orders and all that good stuff, so you can customize your own experience to whether you want it to be a competitive type game or just a friendly, fun, mess about type game. And it just adds to all the options and adds to make this game a very customizable experience. But that's pretty much it for this development blog. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to hit the like button. You know what to do if you didn't. But of course, I'll be keeping you more up to date with Holdfast Nations at War as all the info starts leaking out. But until then, guys, leave your comments down below on any other interesting video ideas that you want to see. Remember to join my Steam group for all the notifications. Join my Discord if you want to come on and have a bit of a chat. If you're on my Discord, by the way, I will come on if you like. Just send a message in the general chat because not many people actually hang out on there at the moment because I've kind of quite busy, so I don't actually spend a lot of time just hanging about on the Discord. But if you're on there, you want to play a game, or maybe I'll put some announcements on my Steam group, so definitely go and join that, and I'll put out an announcement if I'm playing some games with fans on the Discord. Of course, I have Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, and all that good stuff, but all the links to them are in the description down below. But until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.